Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from Redolessence. Welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate your time and your viewership. It means a lot to me. So here we have the very first video that I've ever done on this brand. This brand is called Jacques Fath, and here they have a fragrance called Green Water. Came out in 2015. I think it's an amazing fragrance for the summertime. This is a company that is based out of France. They have almost 40 fragrances in their catalog of releases. I'm very excited to be giving you my thoughts on this fragrance and why I enjoy wearing this one for the summertime, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin my review of Green Water by Jacques Fath and I tell you all about this fragrance, what it smells like, the notes, the performance, the longevity, pretty much everything about this fragrance that I can, I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, if you like reviews, top 10s, giveaways, and more, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. And of course, if you can give this video a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, it would really mean a lot to me. So here we have a fragrance that I think is geared towards the hotter weather, and that's because it contains a ton of citrus in the opening. You have neroli, orange, lemon, bergamot. I mean, there's so much citrus in the opening. It opens up very bright, very effervescent. I should also mention that the perfumer for this one is Cécile Zarokian, and she's one of my favorite perfumers ever. She's done Ani by Nichane. She's also done Tango by Masque Milano. Just a ton of fragrances. If I remember, I'm going to leave a link to her catalog of releases down below for you to check out. I think it'll surprise you as to how many hits she has produced for the industry. But this fragrance also features one of my favorite notes, which is the note of mint. This is a very herbal and aromatic fragrance. It also contains basil, tarragon, a little bit of caraway as well. And so it has a lot of herbal and spicy ingredients in here. And then of course you have a little bit of vetiver and musk in the base from what I remember, but I'm going to be going off of my nose, what my nose perceives, any other comparisons or connections that I could make to other fragrances. And I'm going to tell you all about the smell, but let's start things off with the presentation. So the opening of this fragrance is going to give you a ton of citrus. And I think the ingredient that's really sitting at the fore here is the note of neroli. And I say that because as soon as I smelled it, it reminded me a little bit of other neroli-based fragrances. I suppose I was reminded of some Floris fragrances, also Acqua di Parma. I was reminded of Neroli Portofino by Tom Ford, also 4711. And you know, when you think of neroli, you have a lot of these classic fragrances that come to mind. And this certainly did the same thing for me. And so if you are a fan of those classic citrusy, sort of bright, fresh barbershop types of fragrances that you can wear so heavily in the summertime, this is yet another fragrance to add to that list. But there's something being done a little bit differently here. So of course with a name like Green Water, and you can actually tell the liquid inside the bottle is actually quite verdant, there are a lot of green ingredients in here. So you're going to get the mint, you're going to get the basil, you are going to get a little bit of tarragon and clove. There's something spicy about this one, and I think that eugenol aspect from the clove actually works hand in hand with the mint very well to kind of open up this composition. And I think that that minty quality is working with the citrus very well to make this a very bright and refreshing fragrance for the summertime. And so if you're thinking of other neroli-based fragrances, there's also one by Guerlain, Eau de Cologne Imperial. This is far more complex. There's a lot more happening in here. It's not as plain as a 4711, even though it might remind you of that fragrance in the opening. It actually does go in a far more complex direction as it starts to dry down. So I'm getting that mint and basil combination in here, which is awesome. And it's kind of reminding me of like Nichane's Ege, which is another mint and basil fragrance. Actually, a lot of fragrances out there contain basil as an ingredient. And the more I smell it in perfumes, the more I like it, because kind of adds like this quirky touch to the fragrance, and to separate it and offset it and make it a bit more disparate from other minty, citrusy fragrances on the market, like Renaissance by Xerjoff, which I also love. But sometimes you want something that has a little bit of that quirky personality, and I think that juxtaposition of the basil, the tarragon, and the caraway in this really does that for this fragrance. At some points, I also thought I was picking up on a little bit of like a licorice-y vibe, which could also be coming from some of the other spices that are used in here. And that green quality is evident in the dry down of this fragrance too. And what I think I'm getting is one of the cleaner varieties of vetiver. And so from top to bottom, this is a very clean, citrusy, well-groomed, polished fragrance that I think is perfectly unisex, just because I think citrus is unisex, I think mint is unisex, and yes, I've smelled vetiver in a lot of women's perfumes as well. I think anybody can wear this one, and in addition to it having a bit of a casual vibe on account of the citrus, I also think it has a bit of a formal vibe on account of the spices and some of those ingredients being used in the base. So ultimately, I really like the freshness that this conveys, and I also like that touch of mint and basil to really add that element of complexity in the base. I think this is an awesome scent, and one that I've been wearing a lot in the summer and will continue to wear a lot of in the summer. I have so many fragrances. I always feel like I'm neglecting some fragrances, but whenever I see this one sitting on the shelf, I always think to myself, you know, now is going to be a good day to wear it, especially if it's nice and hot outside. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, I do find this fragrance to be unique, despite the fact that it might remind some people of 4711, Neroli Portofino, Eau de Cologne Imperial by Guerlain. At the end of the day, that mint, basil, clove, tarragon, caraway, vetiver, musk, woodsy combination is really adding that much needed complexity in the base. And of course, if you are familiar with Cecile Zarokian's body of work, you know that she's not going to manufacture something simple. She's going to produce and compose something complex, something beautiful, something breathtaking and spellbinding. And I do think that all of those adjectives are suitable for this fragrance. It's a beautiful fragrance. In terms of the longevity on this one, you can expect about 6 to 7 hours on your skin. The projection was great for the first hour to hour and a half of application, especially on account of all of that citrus that's in the opening, namely the neroli. And then in terms of the versatility, I think this one really shines in the hotter weather. There are certainly some other releases by the company Florist. I'm actually looking at them over to my side here as though you can see it. But there are some other releases by Florist that I think would be amazing for when the weather gets to be a little bit colder outside. But for the summertime, I think Green Water is amazing, and I think this one is perfectly unisex, and I think it does give off a dressed up as well as a casual vibe. So it's a rather versatile fragrance. It just smells really clean, very soapy, polished, elegant, well groomed. So I can see somebody wearing this dressed up but dressed down as well, and I can see anybody of any age enjoying this one too. In terms of the presentation, I like how the liquid inside is actually green, thus evoking the Green Water name, and I just like the presentation of it. I think it looks really classy. My final verdict on this fragrance is, if you are a fan of neroli and you're a fan of a lot of citrus-based fragrances, but you're looking for something with a little bit more depth, a little bit more body, something that's a little bit more complex with notes of basil and mint and vetiver and musk and woodsy notes and some other spices like caraway and tarragon and clove, definitely check this out. I think there's a lot to discover here, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by how much this fragrance does evolve on your skin and how much of that green that it contains. And it's not just, you know, the color of the liquid. You do actually pick up on that bright, minty, fresh green vibe. And so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me today. That was my fragrance review of Green Water by Jacques Fath. If you own or have tried this fragrance, please let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Or for that fact, if you've tried any fragrance by this brand, let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. I would really appreciate it. I love the interaction. If you took something of value from this video, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. And once again, if you can give this video a thumbs up, it would really mean a lot to me. Thanks again for watching. Love you all. We'll see you soon.